School for a long time, so I do speak a little quick. I'll see if I can slow it up. The Down East EMS service, which has been serving Lubec for quite a while now, it's a service that covers Lubec, Eastport, with bases in Eastport, Lubec, Baileyville, and Machias. And it's a good part of Washington County, especially the eastern part of Washington County. Lubec itself had 360 runs last year, and that was up almost 40 runs from the year before. So Lubec's getting busy, and I'll go into reasons for that in a minute. Our coverage area, we basically do an EMT service and an immediate service out of Lubec, and we have access to a paramedic from the Machias base. And what is so good about that is that not only provides us with a paramedic, where the two ambulances can go and meet each other to cut the time down, but it also means that if we have a transfer down to Down East Community Hospital from Lubec, that 52 out of Machias can come up here and cover. So it gives us, it's like a plug and play. We have an ambulance out, an ambulance in. And that is something that a company this size strives to do. And we can do the same thing in Eastport if we need to. If one of their trucks is gone or off duty, we can bring a truck down from Baileyville. And they come up and help Baileyville. So it's one base helping another to try to keep costs down but provide better service. Basically, it gives us a standard of care which is the same in all the bases. We can get a paramedic to the area very quickly, and that is something that we hope will help save lives. So it's very important that what you offer in this part of the county is what you offer here. Now, obviously, some towns are further out, and believe me, our ambulances do so much mileage, it's shocking at times. It's not like the city of Portland where they drive 3 miles. Up here, it's 3 miles out of the driveway sometimes, so, and it's a lot of mileage, and of course that takes extra time to get there. Lubec isn't too bad, but has a few areas like Boot Cove that can take a few minutes to get out there. And just so everyone knows, we really can't speed anymore. The police, basically there's a main state law now that you are supposed to do the speed limit except in extreme situations. And if you use your siren too much, there's a law on that now. It's called siren assault. I'm not going to get into that. I've read the law. It's what it is. They don't want you overusing the siren. So we tend to use our lights. And most of the time that's good enough anyway. And if someone's driving a car that's deaf, they couldn't hear the siren anyway, so they'll see the lights. So that's what we do. So it's interesting. Now, some of the things that people don't know about, I think, in this business, and I only know it too well now, being in medical for a long time, is the factors that affect the price of an ambulance service. And many people in Washington County especially are on Medicare, which is CMS, and their reimbursements are less every year. So we do with less every year. And this year it'll be 2%. Main care, which is another fairly good portion of the people up in Washington County, they're going to decline 2% in 2013 as well. And that comes through the state, and we all have heard what's going on with that, and there's just not enough money to go around. More importantly, I think we need to look at payer mixes, and that means all the people, you take the 100% of the people in Lubec, and X number are on Medicare, X number are on main care, private insurance, which pays the best, is declining, and then you have the ones that do not pay or not able to pay. So we have to factor all that into our ambulance costs. And Washington County has a pretty severe mix of patients that are not able to pay, which it's starting to happen everywhere now too. It was happening in Portland when I left, much worse than it was 4 years ago. So it's all over, but it's a little bit worse up here because of the economy, I think. Ambulance collection rates, and this is where if we can't get paid, we have to try to collect it. And ambulance collection rates are the worst in any industry. Hospitals tend to be around 10 to 14% collection rate. Ambulances are lucky if they can get 5%. And that's a national standard. We're running at about that right now. I think a lot of the reason for this is that the people that are getting billed to be in an ambulance don't remember being in it. So your family may have called the ambulance for you. You've passed out, and then they get a bill, and I didn't call the ambulance. So this is what happens in this business, and these are some of the things that I think a lot of people don't know about. We're running into increased fuel costs, as is everyone, and we have all diesel vehicles, so diesel's a bit high. We have increased service costs on the ambulances. As they age, they tend to need more service, like we do. So the ambulances need more service and more upkeep, and that gets higher every year. A town like Lubec has a fairly aging population, so as you get older, you use the ambulance more. No one wants to admit it, but we all do, and that's one of the problems. We also have a nursing home in Lubec, a fairly active one, I might add. They call us quite a lot. And then we have a small medical center. So all of these things tie into usage of the ambulance. And then we're seeing increases in insurance premiums, and I suspect John knows about this with MMA, that nothing gets cheaper in the insurance industry. Hence with us it doesn't either. We have the same as you do, liability, unemployment, we use MEMIC and so forth, and those costs are starting to look like a July 4th rocket in my mind, so we have that. Where's the industry going? There's failing ambulance services right now, which is a big concern to me, and I'll mention Camden First Aid down in the Camden-Lincolnville area. As of July 1st, their ambulance service is probably going away, and the bank is going to repossess their ambulances, and we don't want to see that happen. So that's one of the things that's going on. Most are struggling financially right now, even the ones down in southern Maine, where there's more calls and more money, but there's less money per call. So it's hurting. We have, once again, rising costs of the towns, because all these other costs are driving the cost of the ambulance up. And as you know, with your town costs, can you name anything that's cheaper any year? Not much. And it's the same with us. We're covering more area per service. We're trying to have this ambulance cover a little bit more so we can do more with less, the old synonym for that, and we're trying to do that, but within reason. As I said, we can't speed. So you can't do 80 miles an hour or 75 in an ambulance. The police will pick you up. So we have to be very careful how we do that, but we want good response times too. This is the interesting thing that a lot of folks won't know about. There's getting increased scrutiny from CMS, which is Medicare, on usage. Right now, all of the ambulance staff have to collect, as you know, names and social security numbers and insurance information, but they also have to get the doctor to fill out a necessity form. Does that person meet the necessity requirements to use an ambulance? And I went to a Medicare offering back in April, and we're noticing now that Medicare is pushing this. They are now scrutinizing all ambulance calls for necessity. Was it needed, and did it meet the 3 or 4 criteria that a doctor has to fill out? Because if not, then the person could have gone in a car or could have gone in anything else. And wheelchair vans have sort of slipped away now in the world. So we're seeing that it's going to be harder for the hospital to justify using an ambulance. And the doctors have to write more, have to use certain verbiage and language on it, or Medicare will look at it and say, doesn't meet requirements, boom, deny. So, any questions about any of this? Everything's running in a different direction. We'd like costs to be cheaper, and everything on this list is stating that it's getting more expensive to do it, but I suspect town costs get that way as well. It's a very similar business, so. Yeah, Mike?
I have a question regarding, I even thought way back when I was an EMT, there was a thing called implied consent.
Yes.
So, if implied consent is still a criteria to decide someone's unconscious, you don't know what the problem is.
Right.
You put them in the ambulance and you transport them.
Well, Mike, that's good. If with implied consent, which is still existing today,
Okay.
if you're passed out, you meet one of the requirements to go in an ambulance.
Okay.
That's where they, no problem with that.
So if they can talk their way out of it, then they don't need to ride in the ambulance.
Well, it depends how mobile they are. You can be a person that can do anything mentally but can't move. If you can't move, you can go in an ambulance. So you've got to meet these requirements. So this is...
You've got to figure all this out because you may not get paid even though you feel it's the right thing to do to transport.
Well, yes, and what we do is, and Dawn, our operations manager is here, Dawn Young, she scrutinizes every run report now to make sure mileages are accurate. We don't want to have any fraud because that has to be very, very carefully monitored. CMS had, Medicare has their computers set up. They know how far it is from Calais Regional to Eastern Maine. It's 95 miles. If somebody's put down 115, it's going to be a flag. The computer's going to spit it out, and they're going to want to look at it and see what's going on. And if the computer spits too many of those out, you have a chance to have the FBI come visit your office. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. So we scrutinize all of them and make sure that everything is dead on accurate. It has to be done that way, and it's supposed to be done that way. So it's a complicated business, and like all businesses are now, and but these Mike, are very good questions. Anybody else? John?
I know one thing.
John, I knew you'd have a question.
Well, I was going to ask you, could you please explain the process if both ambulances are out?
I mean, both of the Lubec ambulances are out?
Yeah.
John, do you want to talk about this? Could she come up?
Sure.
All right.
Talk about
Okay, yeah.
I can talk from here. Well, usually what happens, and this is something that we've tried to do within the last year, if Lubec ambulance goes out, our Machias crew will automatically go. They will let them know whether they need ALS or whether they don't. So if they don't, what this crew will do will either stage in Whiting or come in a little bit further, so if there's another ambulance call. If they get called out in turn, for another emergency, we still have her right here, and we have a lot of people that live in town. Most days we could probably get away with 2 or 3 crews without being paid, right? So a third call comes in, if Marlene's home, she would answer and say, I can take that. Sometimes we turn up the fire department for a driver to help if there's nobody else to go with her. If all 3 ambulances are out and busy, our next step would have to be calling for mutual aid. So we'd have Dennisville or Campobello or Machias ambulance itself come.
And we can also stage Eastport over here halfway.
And that doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't.
No, and we did have a day, what was it, 2 months ago, that every base was simultaneously having runs. We had people coming in their private vehicles from Eastport just to get close in case we had another run here, which they did. They got as far as 189 on Route 1, and there was another tone, 3 in a row. So luckily she was here and came and took over. And Eastport's rig itself was up covering for Baileyville because they were out, and those situations happen once in a while. Yeah, we help each other. All the bases work together. And
We'll be doing the same thing this weekend with the race. We're going to have the 2 Lubec ambulances in town here, and we're going to have the Eastport ambulance over here, and the Machias ambulance will be coming out. And they're all going to help each other out. And we actually may go over and have to help Canada if their 2 vans get busy. So the people on better have their documents with them to get across the border. So, oh yes, the American side wants to know that you're coming back. So the American people in the ambulance with an American ambulance, but they still think you've changed while you've gone over there or something. So it's interesting. Anyways, good question though, John. I mean, those are the kinds of things that we live every day, but a lot of folks just don't know about.
Right.
So.
I mean, just because both ambulances are out and you don't see anybody around, I mean, what you don't see is there's probably an ambulance in Whiting, or there's an ambulance from Eastport that's staging somewhere and providing coverage.
well, you're fortunate in Lubec too that most towns don't have. You have probably 4 or 5 people that live in the area that monitor radios, so they're quite aware. And there's not too many days that there isn't at least somebody that will come in and take over another call.
There's even days when John or I may drive. So that shows you that we can really spread it out if we need to. So that was just recently. It happens. Yes, he did.
I've been free in 2 days.
Well, I just want
Thank you.
to thank you, and your
Thank you.
staff is very dedicated. Because
They
I've
are.
been here when these things happen, and they're on the phone with every base and making sure everybody's covered and that patients are getting where they need to go, and they definitely go above and beyond.
Thank you very much. I'll make sure they know that. So.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Marie.
Thank you, Steve. If you folks in the back would like to have a seat, there are more chairs. Okay.
Okay, cell phone towers.
Yeah, we've been in contact with US Cellular. We asked them for an update. Right now, we have a building notification for 1 tower at the Lubec Town office, and we're told to expect the second building notification